Okay, 14 and moving into 15. Adar Rishon. So here we are with very short Hayom Yom. My grandfather, the Friedrich Rebbe says, my grandfather, the Rebbe Rashab, told me, quote, the Maimorim which are printed in the Kuti Torah were selected by my father, this is the Rebbe Rashab's father, who was a Tzemach Tzedek, out of 2,000 Maimorim. This is Likkutei Torah Or, which I think we spoke about this, was meant to be one volume called Torah Or, but the upheaval of the government closed down the printing presses and it had to come out in 2 volumes. But these Maimorim were hand-selected by the Tzemach Tzedek from over 2,000 Maimorim. So can you imagine the time he put into that? We can spend 3 hours on one Maimor. Now, he's faster than we are, but still it was a lot of time. So with that, thought about the depth of the Maimorim of the Rebbeim, we'll turn to the Maimorim, meaning the sayings, the expressions now, of the Alter Rebbe. And before we do that, we will offer refuah shleimus as part of the schus of our learning. Go ahead.
Elka Rachel Basalisa.
Devor Rachel Bat Miriam Chava.
Baruch Ben Rachel Blima. Yehudis Golda Basalisa Hana. Hava Daniela Bas Hana. Unfortunately, Boaz passed away.
Oh, Baruch Dynamis.
Yeah.
Baruch Dynamis is right.
Woo.
And Yeshua ben Saraleah for Shalema.
Okay. Any more?
Avram Shmaryahu ben Tzippa Rachel.
Anybody else?
Menachem Yehuda Nisan ben Rezel Tzivia.
They should all have a refuah shleimah b'korev mamish.
Amen. And complete victory.
Mamish. Okay, lessons in Tanya. We're picking up today 14. Page 382, near the bottom of the page.
Happy Purim Katan, everybody.
Yeah. And Likkutei Morim. Page 72. From the bottom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 lines up from the bottom in the middle. Okay, continuing our topic of freeing oneself from timtum halev, from blockages of the heart, and particularly the metaphorical heart, the heart that feels and needs to be opened up to the experience of godliness. So yesterday we said that one of the ways to accomplish this through the general avoida of bitterness and thinking about the ways, even if you can't find something now, what could you that's negative in terms of your service of Hashem, which, by the way, is probably not the case, but we'll give everyone l'kav schus that you can find a situation, that you're really in a situation where now everything you're doing is kedusha. But how about the past? We've got to find some reason here why you're being blocked, because you are being blocked, and how to achieve breakthrough here. So he told us yesterday about looking at the sins of the past, the things that you did that even in thought, even if it wasn't a thought that you wanted to do this, but just the thought of it, think about those things. And in any respect you can, the bottom line of all this that we covered so far is to cultivate a feeling of bitterness, which is a feeling of, I want to get out of this place, and to do it in times that are fixed for you. Make times for this. Make times for this kind of meditation, this kind of thinking. Now, today, even if you are clear, free of anything in the past that may be blocking you, making a block of wood out of your heart, so to speak, you're free from these these heavy-duty sins of the past. So even if that's the case, Yosim al liboy, take upon your heart the kayim, to fulfill Maimer Zohar HaKodesh, the Maimer, the saying of the Holy Zohar, lihiyes mamerei dechutzpana, to be a master of accounting. Meaning what? The hainu lases cheshbon im nafshe, to make an accounting with yourself. Mikol hamachshavos v'hadiburim v'hamaisim, of all the thoughts, speech, and deeds, shecholfu va'ovru meyem chiyusei, which have occurred from the time that you came into this world, from the time of your being, ad hayom hazeh, until today, and think, im hoyekulam mitzad kedusha, have every one of them been on the side of kedusha, or could there be something with all the days of your life, thought, speech, and action, which may have been loyalenu, but could be mitzad hatuma, on the side of the other side, Rahman al-Islam, Hashem should have mercy upon us. Dahainu, because kol hamalshavos v'didvurim ma'asim ashalela Hashem hema, because all thoughts, speech, and deeds which are not aligned with Hashem, uleretzoinai, and His will, v'alavedosai, and His service, jezehu pirish loshen sitra achra. This is what it means, right? He just defined for us what the sitra achra means. Anything that's gone on in your brain, your mouth, or your deed that's not aligned with the other, with kedusha, is called, with the side of kedusha, is called the other side. And you should know this. Anytime you turn that around and you now substitute, now, even though the negative thoughts may have been way over then. Remember we said yesterday, in the upper realms, time doesn't have a place, particularly when you get beyond worlds into the essence of Hashem, where forgiveness comes from. There's no time and there's no place. So there has been time in our world over there way back when, but now is the eternal now, the eternal present. So this eternal present, which is the perspective from above, from God's perspective of above, these makshavas hayvis of Kedusha become Nasser Makova be'ezu. They become a chariot, a lift-up machine, so to speak, lehecholos HaKedusha, to the chambers of Kedusha, of holiness. Shemahem mishpois makshavas alalu, which is where these thoughts came from. V'chein lahapech, and also on the opposite side, if the thought that a person has the ability to reach up into the level of Hashem, which is beyond time and place, it's both thoughts. The thoughts of Kedusha have the ability to bring the effusion that comes from the timeless space of Kedusha outside and downward. And similarly, v'chein lahepech, on the other side, if one engages in the thoughts of the other side, at that moment, you're a chariot of impurity at that time, into the chambers of the opposite of Tahara. And it's from there that are falling down to you, or mushpa, that are being coming down and being what's the word? Mushpa. That's a good translation. Shefa. There's a flow. Yeah, there's a shefa. The flow is coming from there, from all the mashavas royas, the bad thoughts. They came to dibramais, and of course, in speech and action also. So this is a pivotal teaching here. When I say pivotal, because it's a pivot point. You should know that any thought you have is going to have a reverberation up above. And this reverberation up above is going to affect the quality of what comes down. So if the quality is, let's take the second part first, and the quality of mashavas which are not toher, so that will further the blockage. It will further the darkness. It will further the hashpos coming down at the root of the sitra achra. And on the other side, if they're kedusha, it will facilitate the coming down of hashpos from the root of kedusha, the root of godliness. It's important meditation to think about that, how the thoughts we have down below are echoed and cause flow from above. And therefore, to the extent that we pivot our thoughts, we can pivot the whole quality of the Kedusha from the other side to the side, the whole quality of Elokus, of godliness, from the side of the negative side to the side of positive. Oid Yosim Aliboy. Now, with that, by the way, we finished today's Tanya, and we're now moving into Shabbos. So, any comment or question before I move on? Oid Yosim Aliboy. Maybe somebody said, go ahead.
I just wanted to say that by putting it so bluntly, did you ever do something that you shouldn't have done? Did you ever? I mean, it's clear that this applies to everybody. That's all. It's just a very, very clear way of saying, like, oh, you think you're exempt? Are you kidding?
But he's also saying that, I mean, what about tshuva? I mean, he did say,
of course. Well, that was
yesterday. Tshuva, yeah,
absolutely. This should be a drive to tshuva. If you're doing this properly, you have, as I said, not a depression, but a bitterness, and this drives you to turn everything around. Koshu, right? Turn and return everything around. So yes, absolutely. And he spoke about that yesterday, right? That tshuva, the fact that you're blocked could be one of the reasons. A reason could be that your tshuva wasn't powerful enough, and now you should be motivated to do a deeper, more powerful tshuva.
And there's always more levels.
Yep.
There's no end, actually.
Absolutely.
So that's what we're here for. Okay.
Right.
So wait, Avi, this is something that can happen to someone externally, like it's coming from above rather than an internal process?
No. It's all an internal process, but everything that's internal comes from above. And he's going to say later, explicitly, even the Sitra Achra itself owes its life to what's coming from above, right? But you have the power of, with your machshava, your power of contemplation, meditation, to change what's coming from above. So the tip-off that you need to do such a thing is what you're feeling internally. If you're feeling internally that your heart is, I'm just not excited about this, really, or in the worst case, I'm completely flat to it, this Kedusha stuff, right? That itself needs to be a tip-off to you that you're, at that moment, the reason that's happening is because you are blocking the flow. And you, on the other hand, have the ability to break through that flow. And what we're providing here, what the Alter Rebbe is providing here, is various techniques for breaking through that flow, breaking through that blockage in order to open up the flow. Is that clear?
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
And this is also, I'm sorry, I know you keep wanting to go back to the text, but this is also the first time that I internalized that Sitra Achra is any thought that's like maybe a Lashon Hara thought. That's a Sitra Achra. If you ever had a Lashon Hara thought, or a hateful or angry, then that's Sitra Achra.
He said that already. It's beautiful that you're seeing that, but he said it clearly. Laila Hashem Hema. He used that expression many times. Any thought that they are Hema, they are not LaHashem, is a thought from the Sitra Achra, and certainly a speech or a deed.
But I wouldn't include that a thought of like, oh, I have to set up the house for Shabbos, or I have to clean, or I have to get dressed, or I have to prepare food, because that is for Hashem Hema.
Those are Kedusha thoughts. Absolutely. Those are Kedusha thoughts. Okay? Okay. So, Oid Yosim Eliboy. Another thing, having said what we just said, big technique here, another idea. This chapter is really coming through with a bunch of ideas, techniques, put it this way, for breaking that heart of stone. So Oid, in addition, Yosim El Liboy, put upon your heart, or we would say, take to heart, Ureiv Chalamoiso, all your dreams, which we know that the dreams are the soul sends above a little, but typically, well, not, let's say typically, I'll say, in someone who has not yet really completed the avoida, the dreams don't rise too high. They're still at a lower level, and they produce a sort of confused state. These dreams, shehem hevel v'royis ruach, which are literally wind or vanity and an evil spirit. These are like, he's talking here about real dreams, like when you're asleep. But it could also mean, I'm just saying this on my own, it could also mean these fantasies, the hihurim that you have, the dreams that you have. But he's particularly, and simply speaking, Al Pi Peshat, speaking about dreams that you dream at night. And they are hevel v'royis ruach. And you see the characteristic of one's dreams can be just a lot of stuff that makes no sense. And because it makes no sense, it's not kedusha, it's not something that you can build on. It's hevel v'royis ruach. It's vanities and just air, which is evil spirit. And the reason that one has dreams like this, crazy dreams, is because your soul doesn't rise up very high when you go to sleep. Mishikosa, as it says in Tillim, Miya ala bahar Hashem. Who can rise up, elevate oneself to the mountain of Hashem? Nakit kapayim uvar levo. It's interesting. He doesn't quote the end, but the end is very important to us. Who can rise up to the mountain of Hashem? One who has clean hands, uvar levo, and clarity and a clear heart. Ve'inin situn bishin. So these dreams are from, and now he's beginning a long quote, a couple of lines, one or two lines from the Zohar. This confusion and chaos and no makes sense that comes in an average dream. The Zohar says, "V'inin situn bishin asyon." They come from the negative side. Umisdabik boy, and they cling to you inside you. Umoidiyam loy, and they make known to you bichalma in your dream. Milinda alma, affairs of the world, but in a confusing state. Ulizamnim tehechan boy. And sometimes they come and they mock you and they show you things which are completely things of lies, of lies, sheker. And they bother you and you have bothersome dreams. So anything that you have dreams, if you have, God forbid, dreams like that, you should know it's coming from the Sitra Achra. In Parshas Vayikra, Daf Kuf Kei, Omer Aleph, and Aleph Beis, Ayin Beis, and Omer Beis. Ayin Sham Bericha, see over there in the Zohar. Excuse me. V'hine, Kol ma sheyarich b'inyonim elu, b'marshavtoi. The more one thinks into these things, in his thoughts, v'gam b'inuni b'seforim, and also looks deeply into Sephorim, holy books which talk about this. Lies liboy nishba, and the amount of meditation you do, either with your own thinking or by looking in books like this, the holy books which are giving you advice about what to do. So the more you do that, lies liboy nishbar bekirboy, and the more you get brokenhearted because of that. Remember, this is the objective here. To break that heart of stone, to break that piece of wood, to penetrate it, to open it, to reveal what's inside of it. So the more one gets a broken heart, the nivza ba'enov nimois, and he becomes, from that perspective, from the perspective of thinking about all the negative, and as we talked yesterday, or we alluded to, we have to be very careful here because we want a pathway not to depression and giving up. We want a pathway to bitterness and waking up, right? The more one holds oneself low, the nimus, and actually it gets disgusted with yourself. That's a good way. The word here means disgusted. You get disgusted with yourself and you say, I'm not going to do this anymore. I'm going to get out of this place, right? Of course, if it's written in Tillim, David HaMelech says, again, B'tachlis hamios, with a complete and utter sense of the disgustedness of sin. V'limus chayav mamish, to the point of being disgusted with your life. If you get enough disgusted with your life, there will rise within you a urge, maybe even a necessity to change your life. Because what you're doing, we want you to think this way, is this despicableness. What is this despicableness? This is the despicableness of the Sitra Achra, Hamashpila La'offer, which is bringing you down and down and down into the dirt, into the dust. And it's this Sitra Achra is what's causing you to fall down, bring you down from the greatness, from the Gedulasa Bigasis Rucha of Gavoya Shemagbia Esatzmoy. It's causing you, it brings you down from the greatness and brings you in its gasis arua. And it brings you down in its raising itself up and getting itself higher and raising itself up al or hakadusha covering over the light of kedusha, of the nefesh elokis, of the godly soul. Lahachshich oyer, and it's what's darkening the light. The gam yiroyim olah. So you should get really angry at this. Right? This is not how I'm choosing to live. I'm sorry. And now I know that this is a trick of the Sitra Achra. Well, I can get a hold of it because I have other tricks, other cards to play, so to speak. They're called the Nefesh Elokis, right? So I'm going to get very bitter and recognize the evil of this. Bekoil rash v'roiges. And he says, with a voice, scream at it. Koil rash v'roiges. With a voice of anger, and roiges is deep anger. The hashpila, to bring it down. The Maimer Azal, as our sages have said, this is the Maimer in Gemara Bruchas, all the time, forever, a person should anger the Yetzer Toiv over the Yetzer Hora. Get angry at it, really angry at it. This is like really practical stuff here. Scream at it. The hashbila, to lower it. As it says, back in Tanya, as it says, rogzu. It goes on and it says in Tillim, rage and do not sin. He doesn't bring the second part. It's interesting how he doesn't bring the second part. Rage, roigas, and do not sin. Let your anger overcome and give you power to say, never again. The is to anger oneself over the animal soul, which at least in these moments we're talking about is tied to the Yetzer Hora, which is bringing you into that state of hardness and downness and worse. We don't have to name all the negative states that this is accomplishing, but it's bringing you down. The koil rash, so you should anger yourself, overcome that with koil rash, with an excited voice, and be angry, in your thought. I would put in at least in your thought, but you don't have to go around screaming out loud. But at least in your brain, you should be screaming. Lamer atorah, and you're going to scream at this. This is a thing, right? This is as we'll say soon, a creation of Hashem. This Yetzer Hora, right? Because everything is a creation of Hashem. But this creation of Hashem has been dispatched on a journey, on a mission to take you away from your holy self, from your nefesh elokis. And I'm going to anger myself over that, at least in thought. Lamer, to say, Atorah, you are evil. Verosha, and you are an evil person. Umeshuketz, umetoyev, and you're disgusting. And you're all words from similar words, shaykets, like, creepy crawly, I'm disgusted with you, etc. Umenovel, and you are a very disgraceful thing, a low thing, this Yetzer Hora. And he uses these words, Rasha, Meshukin, Umetoyev, Umenovel, because these are, he says, Kekol Hashemesh Nikruloi Hachmoinizal Bemes, all the appellations that are Chachamim and their wisest Chachamim have used to attach to what you could call the Yetzer Hora. And you say, you'll get angry at this, right, Yetzer Hora, at least in your thought, and say to him, or her. I don't know if it's male or female. Ad mosai tastir lefonai or ein saborachu. How much longer are you going to conceal the light from in front of me, the light of the infinite one, blessed be he, Hamamali Kolalmin, which fills all worlds? This is the blockage, right? Total concealment or partial, right? But blockage of the Or Ein Sof, the holy light which fills all worlds, which is Hoya Havava Yehiya B'Shava, that holy light, that holy emanation of Hashem, which we call by Hashem's name, Yud Ke Vav Ke, which means past, present, and future, equally. And you're covering that from me, and I'm angry about that. So Gam B'Mokim Zeh. So this is furthermore in what you're raging at least in your mind. B'Mokim Zeh, in this place, Sha'ani Allah, where I'm standing. This place in which I'm standing is as we'll learn in Geras HaShuva, the metaphor of breath, it's God's breath and speech which is enlivening it, right? But that perception that it's God's speech and breath which is enlivening it, you're blocking from me, you Yetzer Hara. Blishum Shunai. But excuse me, this goes into the further piece. This world is the world that was created by God's breath and speech without any change, and it hasn't changed. Godliness is here all the time, from Kedim, from the primordial time, which has no primordial before it. God's emanations have been and are here always, and you're blocking it. That they're here is expressed in the following: Ani Hashem L'Shanisi. God himself says, I am Hashem. In other words, I am Yud Ke Havaya, past, present, and future, and that hasn't changed. And yet, for some reason, which we now understand pretty well, I'm not having that experience because there's something blocking that experience. But that experience is there for the taking because it's always there. As long as God is breathing and speaking the creation into existence, it's always there. Because he, Yud Ke Vav Ke, past, present, and future, is all times together, which is higher than time. And now I'm talking to you, you Yetzer Hara. Ato menova, you are despicable. You machshis ha'emes, you're blacking out the light. Anir la'einayim, which should be appearing to my eyes. And what's the light? The light would be that what would be appearing to my eyes is the following: that everything is really like nothing in front of Hashem, the emes, in truth. And that's the state of being that is meant to be for me, that truth, that there's nothing other than Hashem, is meant to be b'riyah chushim, sensed with your physical eyes. So here you have the root of open your eyes. Open your eyes. That's what the Rebbe said over and over again, because it's really just there for you to turn your focus. That's it. And a method we're saying here for turning your focus is to get bitter about how this Yetzer Hara has tricked you, and into becoming part of his or her world. I think we'll go a little further. Okay? We'll go a little further. Well, all right. Vehine. We'll stop soon. Yoil nafshe halakis. The godly soul can help us out with this. Lahoyer eneha be'emes. In order to illuminate in truth the yichud of the Or Ein Sof, the unity of the infinite light, b'riyah hushis, in our actual way of seeing, in our open eyes. In fact, we can actually come to see it with our physical and certainly with our spiritual eyes, and not just to understand it. When Shekotzev Mechamaga is written in another place, that this, opening your eyes, which is a matter of simply turning your eyes from the Sitra de Achra to the Sitra of Kedusha, and being motivated for that very strongly, because you're sick and tired of being blinded by the darkness. So this is the root of all avoida. That's what he says. Shoresh kol avoida. The hatam, and the reason is, because think, there really is no substantiality to the Sitra Achra. That's why he's compared to darkness. Darkness has no mamashis. It's just it's a blockage of light, but not something that you can touch and feel. It has no substantiality. And therefore, since it has it's more like a cloud that you can, this is a metaphor. A cloud obviously has some substantiality, but it's something you could just blow away. I'm going to blow you away, Sitra Achra, right? And so it can be automatically, if you put your effort to it, nidcha, pushed away, mitnei ha'or, from the light. In fact, you don't even have to blow it away with anything other than just turning on the lights, immersing yourself in avoda, in limud, in hisbaininess, etc. If you connect with the light, the darkness will automatically disappear. So similarly, the Sitra Achra, even though the Sitra Achra has a lot of life, a lot of kick, is called Balechayim, and it's associated with the animal soul to enliven all animals, Atameim, even the impure animals, Anishbois, and Unefoshes, Umas Akum, and the souls of the non-Jews. The Gam Nefesh Bahamis, and the Sitra Achra also gives power to the animal soul to be Yisrael, right? This is the Sitra Achra of Kedusha, right? And a Jew also has this negative, the two sides of the animal soul with its Sitra Achra and the godly soul with its side of Kedusha. Mikol Mokim, in other words, it has presence. It's a reality. Yes, it is. Otherwise, we wouldn't. But it's a reality which is easily blown away, plummeted away, enraged away. But because you should know in the first place that all the life force of the Sitra Achra and anything negative is not from itself, chas v'sholem, elamasara kedusha, because everything comes from God. Therefore, the Sitra Achra is on a mission from God, and it's completely nullified to that mission, but because it's nullified, because it's completely in the service of God, when you teach it or rage against it, we're going to give examples when we start on Sunday with the Yidden in the desert. What was it that turned them around from being afraid to go into Israel into being conquering with a charge? It was just a change of perspective, right? So it can become, the Sitra Achra can be nullified in front of Kedusha, Kaviyachol, just like a Choshek Mipnei Or, just like darkness can be nullified in the front of Or Hagashmi, physical light. It's just that in relation to the holy Jewish soul, Hashem gave the Sitra Achra permission, and ability, to raise itself up, connector, in order that the person would strengthen oneself to overcome it, and lower it, through pushing it down, that despicable spirit, pushing down that despicable spirit, so that it's that it's despicable in your eyes. Two more lines. And you should know, another point, that any arousal you do down here below creates an arousal from above. The kayim, and that causes to fulfill what it says in Avadia, that from there, if you subjugate the Sitra Achra down here below, you will create an arousal from above, and from there I will push it down completely. Na'um Hashem, says Hashem. Dahainu, meaning, Shemesira umemshalta, its dominance, its given overness, and the rulership, the Yechelta, and its ability, umesalak memeni hakoyach b'reshus, will be taken away from it. The ability to darken will be taken away. Your arousal from below will affect an arousal from above to take away the darkness of the Sitra Achar and his permission, that the Holy One, blessed be, gave permission to it, neged or kedushas nefesh elokis, against the light of the godly soul. And then automatically, if you arouse yourself down here below, give yourself a kick and cry out and scream at this and attach yourself to the thoughts of Kedusha, automatically, since this thing has its existence in itself, is something God has done in order to bring you to a point of embitteredness and arousal and deep shuva, and that will nullify mevatel and mevatel lechoshek and mevatel the darkness mipnei or hagashmi in front. Excuse me. It will darken the darkness, like darkness, physical darkness is pushed away from physical light. And we'll stop here because it's 8:05 anyway, and it's Erev Shabbos. But anyone wants to add comments, questions? Hopefully, I'll write some of these down in our Google Doc. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 expressions here about what to do and to get rid of the fake imprisonment, the illusion of imprisonment of the Sitra. I mean, it's not illusory. You're there. You're heart of stone. But to get rid of it. Any comments? All right. If you have any hanging questions, we'll come back on Sunday with it. Good Shabbos, everybody. Bye-bye.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom. Enjoy the day.
Shabbat shalom.